as always, with my wonderful co-host Matt, and we are here to have a deep and probably sorrowful discussion regarding The Whale,
The Whale. Yeah,
the two-time Oscar winner.
two-time Oscar. That was your suggestion, right, Jonathan? Right?
Yep, yep. I picked
Yeah.
this one. This one. I mean, it was just up to the hype. You know,
Yeah.
I was hesitant. Well, not with Brendan Fraser, but with the general media hype. This one though.
Oh, yeah. Well, I just want to say thanks for making me cry at least on 3 different occasions last night.
Right.
That was
Had
cool. Appreciate that. But anyway, we're here with Sean.
It's a drought, man. Gotta make it rain somehow.
What do you want to say about this movie right off the bat for an intro? We'll get into more spoiler stuff later.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. It's tricky because I do obviously I want to talk about Brendan Fraser's acting. I think so. Like I was saying earlier, I didn't pick up any of the hype. I disconnected from social media and stuff a while back, and so I didn't know shit about this movie, what it was about, how unbearably freaking sad it is. So and I mean, watching the thing, I think it would be an intense movie for people. Obviously it's dramatic, it's a real tearjerker, but I think it had a connection to some really real life experiences that I had that made it incredibly intense for me. And beyond that, it then speaks so strongly to the work that Brendan Fraser did in capturing those things so well. And so, I mean, yeah, I was moved by the piece. I'm still blown away by his execution through all of that. And yeah, I mean, I appreciate you guys making me watch it because I never would have. I mean, I never would have gone out and looked for it. It kind of fell off the radar for me after I found out that Brendan Fraser was back from retirement and doing movies again.
So speaking
that's actually a whole thing in itself.
Yeah,
Brendan Fraser.
Yeah, Brendan Fraser's career. I mean, to be honest, seeing the thumbnail of this picture alone. And then knowing, I remember seeing an article on Brendan Fraser about maybe 8 years ago or something like that. And about why he's not appearing in a lot of movies. His career's just been on the rocks. And I saw he was just overweight and he was losing his hair. And that one made me want to cry. Because I'm sure because of the generation we are in, we're all big Mummy fans. And, seeing him young when we're younger.
Man, I rewatched The Mummy as an adult probably a couple of years ago, and it had been a long time, right? Mm-hmm. But it occurred to me for the first time that I didn't know if the movie didn't hold up because all of a sudden in a rewatch it was super tropey and predictable, and it was this movie actually just the corniest thing I've ever watched and I didn't care because I was 8? Or, on the other hand, was this the movie that defined all of the what's the word I'm looking for? All of the
adventure blockbusters.
All the stereotypes and cliches that I grew up with. Was this it? This was the first one that put a picture in my head of what the sassy, sexy librarian would be, what the gun-toting, charismatic adventurer would be.
American adventurer.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was a very American film, even though it was obviously, takes place in Egypt,
Look, yeah, made us look good. The other idiots did not make the Americans look good, but Brendan Fraser was fucking carrying the American name right there in that movie.
Was he ever shirtless in that film?
No.
Maybe, but I don't know. But George of the Jungle.
Yeah,
he was George of the Jungle. He was shirtless the entire time. So
yeah, and what I was Encino Man.
Well, he was shirtless in this movie a few times. Did that do anything for you?
True.
It somehow did not have the same impact.
Right. But when I brought up Brendan Fraser's career, so Brendan Fraser claimed that I want to say 2018, he claimed that in 2003, the summer of 2003, that the former HFPA president sexually assaulted him.
Oh,
and that's why he pretty much quit.
Pulled an old
And this
Weinstein
is
on
way
him.
before Me Too. I mean, this is before gay marriage was even legal. Like, this is like a whole thing.
And it's crazy to me. I didn't. I mean, again, I was a little disconnected from all the hype. I remember seeing that picture of him, a little heavy. He had a smile on his face. He was like holding bags of food or something like that.
Did you?
And people were just ripping into this dude, and I'm like, man. Like, how many
Really?
hundreds of millions of dollars do you need to make before you're allowed to retire and take a goddamn break, right? You
Well,
know,
he-
would you leave this
Right.
dude alone? Can he please be fat and happy for a little while, you know? And I mean,
Right.
granted, it sounds like he was maybe not very fat and happy, but
Yeah, he
still.
he actually wasn't really retired. It's just his agent was just sucked at life and
I gotcha.
couldn't get him and wasn't getting him any more roles, and then he was going through
Sure.
that depression. And yeah, if you look
Well-
into his eyes on some of those pictures, he's smiling, but his eyes are not. His eyes are sad.
There's
and-
real pain and suffering
Yeah.
there. You know, some of that wasn't even just acting. That was just living. You know.
Yeah.
That
So,
was- yeah.
I'm sure he's able to bring a lot of his real experience into this film. I've been, ever since I seen him where he was like in that kind of state where people were kind of ripping into him, I was definitely like, I truly became like, I was always like a Brendan Fraser stan from like The Mummy, because that's one of my all-time favorite movies. Don't care how corny it is.
Oh,
and
yeah.
How action
Yeah.
adventure cliche it is. It's amazing. I love it. It'll always have a place in my heart. But I truly became
Absolutely.
a stan for his return. And
Mummy? No, sorry.
so when
You're good. That was good. That was good.
So
Frickin-
hearing about the whale, it did hype me up. I was pretty excited to see this movie for a long time.
Yeah.
Just knowing that he's getting back out there and he's getting a very dramatic role where he can really lay into it and show his acting chops.
Yeah, he's not leaving impressions of himself in trees in this one. You know what I mean? Like, this is not his usual kind of.
Yeah, this is not, as you brought up, Encino Man.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, before he was like the dumb, fit adventurer, and now he's like the overweight, depressed, intelligent, professor.
Yeah.
Matt, how would you best describe it? Like, how would you enjoy this movie and like what people can expect going into it? I guess we kind of already went through that last part, but
I'd say like what to expect in this movie is just gonna make you sad. So I wouldn't come into this movie in the super place where it's gonna be okay. You're gonna know. I want you to go into this movie knowing that you're gonna come in here for an emotional experience, typically a more tragic one, and I want you to kind of expect things to be looking kind of gross. I went in with that mindset, that expectation that I was going to probably be a little sick to my stomach watching this dude live his life, because I've seen a few episodes of Hoarders.
yeah.
It never gets to the extreme to where it made me ill, but like having that expectation beforehand probably helped as like a little vaccine to watching that dude feast and watching his kind of like apartment and or little house there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, pretty early in the movie, he starts, having that masturbating scene.
Yeah, what an opener to a movie.
Yeah, well, I think that was to like kind of make everything else seem like a little more like this is my life rather than just like I don't know, maybe not. I don't know. I might be like just thinking wrong on that, but
Oh yeah, they definitely.
I don't know.
They wanted to separate the weak from the chaff out, and they're like, "Are you
Yeah,
gonna
I
be able to
feel-
handle
yeah,
this movie?
something
You're
like
gonna see
that."
this guy beating off to gay porn
Yeah,
while he's like
Right.
near 600 pounds."
Yeah, it was kind of he was testing the waters on like how far are you willing to go with us?
How would you say you'd enjoy this movie best?
Well, I would say to expect like the physical embodiment of depression.
Yes.
I mean, I haven't seen something that did it that well since like BoJack Horseman, maybe the Joker movie. as far, and I feel like that's been such an important topic as of late, and thankfully in the media and stuff, is mental illness and mental health. Um, when we talk
Yeah,
about addressing these things, because obesity, I mean, we could say that spoilers obviously, that obesity killed him, but really it was depression,
I think
that killed him long ago.
so much of his depression, though, too. A lot of it stems from I felt a lot of his denial and his inability to just kind of move on and just kind of like almost. There are certain parts in the movie that I just wanted to kind of highlight on, but there was a part where he was researching his blood pressure and he puts the candy bar away, and it was like at that point in the movie I kind of made me feel like it almost seemed like he gained an awareness of how far he's really let himself go, and he was like,
Was reminded of it every moment of his life.
well,
What I saw in that, and it's fascinating that you guys are talking about like it being a matter of depression and everything like that. But like the thing that I feel like he did so well is that he depicted not just like a symptom, but of losing the battle that he's fighting, of like time and time again, like making the decision, right, like seeing it, understanding what he's doing, and then succumbing to it anyway, just like not having the willpower to overcome that thing. And I think it's fascinating because I don't think that through all of that they ever had him abandon what he was, right, like the person, the dude that ended up trapped in this battle was always there. He was always positive and supportive and saying what he believed in and everything like that, like, and I mean,
see,
like he had lost his sense of self-worth, but that
Yeah,
hadn't tainted what he saw in the rest of the world around him.
see, I
yeah.
kind of took a different impression of that. Like he seeks authenticity so much, but yet I think that it's because he's lacking it a lot in himself, because he would not be honest with himself about a lot of things. If you notice, a lot of the times, most of what he says to other people is "I'm sorry" or "sorry, sorry, sorry," or he wants the
Yeah.
authenticity, but he also isn't willing to give it to himself. He's also not willing to really fight back in things that bothers him, or I felt like bothered him, or he would want to say more about it, but he's just so afraid of losing the little connections that he has that he just kind of passively lets things that would bother him continue. Um,
Oh man, that's
I'll
interesting.
be hon- I'll be honest. I'm actually more in agreement with Sean. I felt a lot of that. Basically, he loves. He has so much love for everyone except for himself. He
Yeah.
has respect for others except for himself, and I think that's, well, you could argue there's some issues to that, but it's he doesn't have that self love. He doesn't have that self worth, as Sean put it. And not and it's funny because you need to love yourself enough to care for yourself before you can really help anyone else, because he can't
yeah. Well,
help people aside from money, from his couch. He can't be a dad on his couch. He can't live his life that way.
well, he can't really
So
be.
man,
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
cool. I'm excited. This is bonkers. We might as well just kind of rip the band-aid off this one. I had mentioned that like I had personal experiences that like linked me to a lot of what was going on here. So like I mean, of course, lots of people that do not know me as well. I mean, like my entire life, I watched my dad's health fail, and so like obviously he never got to be that big. He was never quite 600 pounds, but he did get quite large, right? Which is difficult. But beyond that, the things that I saw these parallels in, the behavior in sleeplessness, the lack of regard for your own life, having actually succumbed to the fact that like my life has become pointless. If I died tomorrow, it would be not a tragedy, but the end of this misery that I'm experiencing. Like when my dad finally passed, like it had been time for a long time, right? And so like I've watched those things. I've watched the whole like people are trying to encourage him to take better care of himself, and he's like, no, like this is it. Like I am what I am. I'm doing everything that I can for everybody else, but like there's nothing left to save here. Like prolonging this thing is not going to do me any good. And so now like my dad never went into the like all of the apologies and everything like that, but like you can see it, like the shame that you experience from abandoning what you think that you are. Like my dad was a working man. He wanted to provide for his family and make his children strong and everything like that, and those things were taken from him, right? And that's what this guy had. Like he wanted to be a good parent, and he wanted to teach writing, and he wanted to like be this positive person that pursued these things in the world, and this tragedy that happened to him, I mean, like took those things, right? He wasn't able to fulfill the only thing that he believed was his purpose, and that's like I don't know what else you could take from a person. Yeah, and I don't know. I was familiar with the with abandoning your own desire to live, and that not meaning being suicidal, like not wanting to kill yourself, but just like not caring anymore. I'm dying sooner better than later, right? And that's intense stuff.
Yeah.
Well, what's crazy to me is that, well, it's so sad is that he lost his lover and all that stuff, and that whole shit's horrible. But in doing that, he lost, his daughter. I mean, there was a whole. I mean, the thing was complicated because it wouldn't have salvaged his stuff with his wife, but I don't know, him
It's also
not
awful.
being there for his right. Well, just him not being there for his daughter. His daughter, yeah. Well, that's just it, though. She is a product of anger, and she's depressed too, dude. She's just
She's like acting out,
transitioning it into anger. She's just converting it into anger. But really, she's just sad. Because, I mean, why wouldn't she be? She's literally basically has no parents. Her mom's on Adderall, and her dad's, already called it quits. Like, when she was.
I'm talking about the mom. The daughter is a symptom. The mom's awful.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about the daughter, because she was rather bitchy. By the way, it was really crazy to see I have her written down somewhere. The actress that played Max in Stranger Things.
Yeah. No, I didn't like the daughter, to be honest, though. I mean, she was
Sadie Sink.
Sadie Sink. Yeah, no, I appreciated the character, and the acting done was pretty good, but like, God, I just hated that girl. She was like, at first I was like, all right, I get it. You're upset. You're acting out. But there were some things that she did was just like over the top. All she was angry, and there were points where she did get a little bit of that vulnerability, but there were some things, man, I was like, that's really crossing the line. Like,
well, that's how she survived, is by not being vulnerable.
Well, I don't think that's really.
I think it's her defense mechanism. Is what I'm saying.
It's her trying to get attention. Trying to get some kind of response from her parents.
She's been starved of it. She was basically taken away from her father, who also wanted to die, and her mom was just literally a zombie on, was it Ambien or something?
Ambien, yeah. And alcoholic, too.
Yeah. Kid raised by the internet.
I have just got almost endless compassion for children, though. and it's learned, like it's something that I've found with my job and everything, and being around more of them. But like the kid that's acting out and doing these things that would be easy at face value to be like, this is atrocious, but like the conversation that the mom has with Brendan Fraser's character in that, like where she's evil, like she's fucking awful, and I don't know what to do with her, and she's just the worst, like this parent that has given up and like not recognized the role that they played and the behavior that they're now damning so significantly and everything. Like I can't find it in myself to hold those kids accountable for it, and not, maybe not holding them accountable is the wrong way to put it. Like obviously there are consequences to your actions, but like I can forgive them, even if they don't ask for it. I can find it in myself to be like, you were dealt this hand, because when you're 40, it's time, right? Like you need to have pulled your head out of your ass by then, and if you haven't, like that's on you. But this kid's in high school, right? Like they barely know how to function, like their lives are thin and vapid. They're almost purely reactionary. They have no idea why they behave the way that they do or what they want, like. And so like this kid doing awful things to people to just like feel that agency, to like feel like they have some sort of control over their life, and I don't need anybody, I'm gonna be tough, like all of that. Like I
don't need
I see that as only a reflection.
I think you're absolutely right. I think that there's some things in there I just couldn't really excuse too much of. I still will understand that it's a kid, but like there's some things in there. It's like, that's really too far. That's way too much. You need some.
Even I was going to say, even when things are like too far, I feel like when we talk about having empathy for others, I think it's important to meet people where we are, because I found it interesting. Like, of course, 40. We're talking 40-year-olds comparatively, especially when talking about what we expect out of a 40-year-old versus what we expect out of a kid. But that's just it. Expectations. People are basically punished for not meeting our standards of expectations, especially when I feel like you need to meet people where they are, and based off of where they were, not where we expect ourselves to have been or to be at their age.
Reasonable.
It's about where they've been, because people have so many different lives, amongst generations, amongst even just households in the same neighborhood. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm just saying you can find empathy even for the 40-year-old, even if he's a piece of shit.
I think objectively you can understand that, like, even the adults that are failing to have kindness and compassion and all of that, like, okay, they never learned those skills. Like our society chooses people
starved in it themselves
all the time. Yeah, for sure. So I mean, like, I can objectively understand that. I just don't know that the objective understanding that it's not their fault obligates me to give a shit.
They should have accountability. Just because you are a problem.
I don't have to like them.
Yeah.
I don't have to forgive them. I don't have to give them any more chances, right? Like children will make lots of mistakes, and you have to be willing to not give up on them, but like at a certain point, like I'm willing to forgive myself of my own obligation of being a saint and being like, oh, everybody's just fighting their own battle. No, like if you robbed me a couple of times, right? Like, I'm sorry, right. In your life, but you robbed me at gunpoint and you're an asshole, right? Like, go fuck yourself. And I mean, that's harsh, right? But like, hurting people hurts people, right? There's a threshold.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Indeed.
Let's take a little break. We talk about the a little bit about like what the play and the cast and the production of this deal here, because we kind of skipped over that and we just dug right in. There's a lot to talk about with this movie, but we'll get over that, and we could probably do like a quick like beat for beat of what happened. Not beat for beat, but a rough overview of the movie. Jonathan, do you want to start us off with like director where this
Okay.
origin of this movie comes from.
Well, all I really know is that it was directed by Darren Aronofsky. What did we say some of his stuff was?
Oh yeah,
What stuff he did?
He was a writer for Requiem for a Dream. I believe he directed
right.
The Fighter, The Wrestler. He directed, I think he directed Jackie. A lot of really big movies that have been around the, done some laps around the Academy Award. Can't say I really think that a lot of them picked up a lot of awards. I think some of them did. He also directed. No, he was a producer. Well, he's a producer for a lot of these movies. My bad. But he's also a producer for the movie Noah.
Yeah. He also produced this movie as well.
Mm-hmm.
He directed and produced.
Mm-hmm.
He was also it was so this was written by Samuel D. Hunter, and it was actually based on the play that he also wrote. Where I think a lot of Charlie's life was based on himself, I believe. We had Sadie Sinks, as I said earlier. Actually, it was funny. The young Ellie in I think one of those flashbacks or whatever was actually played by Sadie Sink's sister, JC Sink.
Oh, no kidding.
That worked.
Yeah.
It's a good way to get somebody that's a believable younger version.
Right. Just use their little sister. Ty Simpkins is Thomas. I hope I'm not saying this wrong. Hong Chow as Liz. But she did really well, really powerful. I didn't understand her character at first. That was interesting. That they didn't explain her till like halfway through, and it's like, who is this lady?
Oh yeah, Well, I like the
she's
way
not
they
just
did
a
that.
hospice nurse,
Yeah, I love the way that they kind of have that revealed because I was asking myself the same questions, like why is she helping him so much if she's not?
Well, she's also hurting him too.
She is.
It's ironic.
Enabling
She's
him.
feeding him a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's
that's
because
a tough one, man.
Well, they reveal later that her brother, he refused to eat. No matter how hard she tried, she spent her life trying to feed him. And so here she is trying to take care of her brother's husband or boyfriend, I mean, to say whatever. And she can get him to eat,
The little piece of him that's still on this earth.
Him. She's still trying to feed her brother through him.
I love that.
It's crazy.
I love that that you picked up on that. That was really good. I
guess though. There are two things that I think that we've already kind of talked about that I think you're probably right. Like from a literary analysis standpoint, I'm sure that there's a metaphor there. But like one, we've talked about not fighting the battles that you can't win, right? Like is hurting this person that you love to like try to shame them into changing the behaviors that that they're not going to change. Like, do you believe that if this person was like, no, I'm not going to go get you your meatball sub, that would have saved this guy's life? Because I don't, right?
No.
And so then the second thing is, again, like the whole like abandoning your desire to live. My dad had doctors for the whole last 30 years of his life that are just like, you need to diet, you need to exercise, and there are obviously challenges to that, but it really came down to, and my dad told me this, he's like, look, there are very few things in my life that bring me joy anymore. Food is one of them. If losing food is the cost of prolonging my life, kill me now, right? Just like, I'm not willing to abandon this last thing that I have. And so, like how else do you love that person? Like the tough love thing, it can only go so far.
Well,
I understood. I understood why she was doing it.
I can see to Jonathan though. I want to say is that she shouldn't be enabling him because he's not. He was not terminally ill or anything. He was depressed, but also she was kind of like encouraging his overeating a bit too much. Like, you don't have to be tough love to get him to want to help improve his life. but you
only
should.
get him one meatball sub instead of two.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Or make it a 6-inch or something. Get a salad with it. Like, I don't know. They never did walking exercises. They never. I don't know. It's really hard. And I think it's interesting that, and I hope you don't take this comparison insultingly, but I feel like a lot that whole not giving up food thing, that we see in the whale, and your story of your father, it feels like a grasp of control. Like this is the one thing I can
agree.
control.
100%.
Especially when the world, everything is out of your control, because that's the way life is. It's uncontrollable, and you got to adapt instead of that. But it is. I don't know where I was going with that either, but just an observation, I suppose.
Their ability to influence their environment is not just like something that people are kind of wanting, like it's a necessity of life. And so I mean, like when you've lost track of that, you'd cling to whatever you can control, in whatever negative ways that you wanted to, like you'd make bad decisions and you'd hurt the people around you, all of that, because it's what's there.
Yeah. I think a lot of the theme of this movie is a lot of them are like, these are not people that are doing the right thing. They are kind of failing in their own ways to try and you can see that within Ellie, the daughter, that's kind of the product of it all.
Yeah. These are a projection or reflection or something.
So I want to make sure that I don't want to like put like blame onto these people because they are so well written and so well humanized, but that does not necessarily excuse their actions for the way they behaved, because they have consequences. They're adults and they should be allowed to grieve, but this is like it taken to the most unhealthy extent. In so many ways.
Well, the grieve, you're supposed to eventually not at least grieve as consistently, or so much so that it's embodiment, to this long. I mean, this is like a decade or something,
it
right?
Shouldn't
Ellie was 9 years when Ellie was 8.
Shouldn't persist
6
to
months
like
is the agreed upon time frame. where like it's not, it's and like this is in like psychology and stuff. This is not just like me coming up with arbitrary timelines. Yeah, for sure. So like that's not to say that your grief goes away. Like you're not supposed to be like, okay, 6 months on the dot, now I never give a shit about this person again, right? But like in that 6 months, you've got that window to be as crazy and irrational as you damn well please. Everybody. You have to have those experiences. You've got to be like, no, I'm going to be a selfish prick right now, and you deserve that, right? Like people are owed that much, but then after that point, you've got to find it in yourself to do something different. Like you got to get your shit back together, and you've got to function. You can't let your grief become your identity. You can't let it control your life. Like you got shit to do.
Yeah, you can't allow that to become 8 years of feasting and neglect, as well as the mother too, who never really moved on either.
Yeah, no, she did it.
Really good point. Yeah,
I never really thought about that.
I didn't either.
But she's not in the movie that much.
No, she's a small part. The entire movie is kind of like almost a bottle film where it just takes place inside of this room.
So I was thinking about that. Is there a single scene that takes place outside of his apartment?
There is, but
the port?
Right? There is, if you count the flashback or the kind of dream scenes with him in like the Oregon coast, I believe it was, or the Washington coast. But that's right. About it. That's taking place in his head, though. Yeah, and that's
in real time. I don't think so.
They are just abstract images of that place.
A foot on the beach.
Yeah, for sure, man. No, like almost exclusively. It's which makes sense. I didn't know that it was based off of a play, but like limiting your set changes, basically, like having it all take place in this kind of controlled environment makes a lot of sense. I see why that all links together.
Yeah. And speaking of linking together, I love how everything in the story is very well crafted because everything does have some sort of link together. Everyone has pretty strong degrees of separation from each other, and they all tie into each other, like whether that's with the church, the well, it's the church, that's his overeating, her the caretakers, the nurse's decision to continue to feed him, the relationship with the brother, being involved with the church, all of
The
it.
fact that the person, like, from the beginning that the caretaker uh frick, I can names are hard. What's Brendan Fraser's character's name again?
Charlie.
Charlie, that's the one. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, like you know that both of them lost somebody, like had some sort of impact from the church. You don't know until way too far in that they're the same person
I did
that
love
they
that
lost.
reveal. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. Yeah, but just to add into the everything tying in together, like it was all
Yeah.
really perfectly constructed,
I did.
almost like it's a movie.
Almost like it's a good movie.
Yeah,
No, I think that was really well done. Sorry, you gonna say something,
Yeah.
Jonathan?
Oh, it'd be off topic. I'm looking at some of the trivia on IMDb.
Oh, okay. Do you want to hit that now, or do you want to?
Yeah. I'll just kind of skim through that real quick. So obviously he had to wear that fat suit. I've actually saw a video once of them putting all that stuff. It's actually kind of wild.
Pretty good fat
He
suit because he looked
so
gross.
So Darren Aronofsky said at the 2022 Venice Film Festival that took him 10 years to make this film,
wow,
and that casting Charlie was actually the biggest challenge.
interesting.
And it wasn't until he saw a trailer for the Brazilian film Journey to the End of the Night, which starred Brendan Fraser, which I haven't seen that movie.
I've
heard
From
of that.
2006. Yeah. You imagine Fraser as the lead. Blah blah blah. Charlie was based on, as I said, on Samuel D. Hunter's. It says he wrote an eponymous. I don't know what that means. Play.
You're a theater nerd. What does that mean, Sean?
Yeah. Do you know what that means?
I don't
What's
know
an
if it's
eponymous
spelled.
play?
So
EPONYMOUS.
I want to say, so I like an eponymous release for a musician is like an album named after the band. So
Oh, yeah. I always thought it was like self-titled. That's the long term
which I
for
guess,
it.
yeah, for sure. So I guess let's consult the
It doesn't
oracle.
matter. I think they might be saying because it's based on himself. I think is what they might be meaning. If that's a similar route or whatever, because it's saying that like Charlie, Hunter's openly gay, taught expositionary writings at Rutgers University, and battled binge eating disorder.
Okay, so I see here. I looked up eponymous. It says of, to, or relating to, or being the person or thing for whom or which something is named. Of, relating to, or I guess
it's related. So it's in relation to. So
yeah.
it's because it's based on himself.
Yeah.
In some similar, loosely based on himself.
So
weren't you just talking about a real professor named Charlie that this character was inspired by?
His name isn't Charlie; it's Samuel D. Hunter. But I guess the similarities were him being openly gay, being a writing professor at Rutgers University, and going through a battle. And he eventually, I guess, he lost 130 pounds at some point.
Mm-hmm. Good for him.
I mean, like, don't get me wrong. Like definitely not an educated enough person to be able to make this call, but I'm pretty sure they misused that word. I don't think that's what eponymous means.
Yeah, possibly. I'm reading this right off of IMDb, so I don't know.
Well, an eponym.
Can I give it the thumbs down then?
Yeah.
No. No.
Yeah. Well, like, I mean, an eponym is like a word that means it's named after this. Like, they do that with organs and stuff like that. It's like, oh, this organ is named after this person who discovered it or whatever, or discovered its function.
Sure.
So yeah, I think you're right, Sean. I think it was kind of like
Maybe so. I clearly couldn't even pronounce the word. So
Maybe
it's good to learn something though.
semi autobiographical would be kind of
Right.
maybe a bit
Well,
more accurate.
loosely based on one. Yeah, I don't know. A fictional biography. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, based on. But anywho, the production. So, well, actually, I guess I didn't finish the last two names. So, Samantha Morton plays Mary, and I'm gonna say this wrong. Safia Saridahan
That's
plays
exactly.
Dan the Pizza Man, and that's like the whole cast. I'm pretty sure for
Dan
the
the
most
Pizza
part. 'Cause
Man. What a guy.
yeah, the pizza guy. What an interesting thing. I thought it was because they could have totally just left that out. You know, he's getting pizzas to the door. Who gives a shit? But it was interesting. This kind of consistent, hold on, this like consistent like draw we have as people. Like even as isolated as you want to be. I mean, he does online classes. He doesn't even turn on his camera, but there's still like this little yearning for everyone to like kind of be social in some manner or of another, you know.
Well, I think
Yeah.
in a lot of
And to care about people and be
yeah,
curious about what they're going
Yeah.
through.
I think
Yeah,
Sorry to cut
even
you
the
off.
guy you're delivering pizza to, you know?
I
Just, you know?
I think too is that that guy has been curious about him and is delivered to that place so many times. It just kind of shows the level of isolation. And since in depression often gets worse when you don't make connections with people, and the fact that
Yeah.
he has basically, because of his own shame, he's never really let people see who he is or what he looks like. So he's never really had the, and this goes along with kind of like something that I kind of feel about the movie. His complete isolation, one, and two, the fact that he does not, he doesn't really connect with these other people, shows that he's almost been kind of living in this funk where he hasn't really realized quite how far he's really taken it. He knows in certain ways, but like when that guy looks at him for the first time, it's like he really did kind of see how that guy looked at him as like, whoa, that's fucked up. And I think he hasn't really seen that from someone from the outside, because really the only people he interacts with is his nurse, you know?
People that already get it, that already know how bad it's gotten. Man, I'll tell you what though, I don't like that that's what they ended that interaction with. Like it was fascinating to me that the brief interactions that they had were engaging, and then for him to like just be standing there gawking, waiting for the guy to walk out the door, and then no conversation, not this like humanizing moment where the guy that's like reached out, hey, are you okay in there? I want to introduce myself. Here's all of this me like throwing myself kind of vulnerably into your space to try to have this interaction, and then he gets his opportunity and the guy looks disgusted and runs away, right? Like I don't know. I found that both unbelievable, and also I feel like if the point was really to be what you're talking about, where like it's this guy's first chance to kind of see the way the outside world views him, I feel like that was something that the missionary should have brought in, right? Like they had that moment when he's finally like, oh, you're fucking disgusting, right? Like I don't understand why that was the end point of that interaction, of the guy just like running off and then never being heard of again. I didn't see where that went.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. It's like, what's interesting to me about it is like, that it may not have been humanizing, but I felt like it was human, at least in a sense of, first of all, him wanting to see him in the first place, but then even his reaction of, I mean, what do you do? I'm sure whatever he had in his head, this dude was way worse when he came out that door. And what do you even do? He's almost like, because as a pizza guy, he's almost like a heroin dealer for this motherfucker. Like, seriously, it's like,
yeah.
it's weird. That's an odd thing to like experience, and
he was definitely
he also wanted to bond too. This guy might not have been very socially, big either. The Dan the Pizza Man,
Yeah, what's his
and
story?
he wanted to
What's his-
reach out a little too. When he first was like, my name's, this, I know, just in case you wanted to know, he reached out first.
Mhm.
He wanted interaction too.
Well, I think it was kind of like his voice, him being caught looking at him. He felt a bit of shame and shock. One thing shock, and then the other thing like,
Yeah.
oh, I definitely kind of betrayed his trust by sticking around and looking at him.
Yeah, and now you know
That's actually
why.
fair. Yeah, I follow.
Yeah, but
just the interesting thing about the Mormon thing,
The
that
Mormon
play
thing.
in the play, well, that's just it. They say they're not Mormons, but in the play, they actually were Mormon.
oh,
That's
okay.
And the teaching
hilarious. They
borrowed from
probably-
Jehovah Witnesses and fundamentalist Mormons, I guess. What are you saying, Sean?
They probably trimmed that to make the movie a little bit more palatable.
Yeah, wouldn't
Make it so the
wouldn't-
Mormons
I
could
thought he was a
actually watch
Mormon
it.
the whole time, anyways. Like, I don't know why they just.
We grew up right in the Morador. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. You have to
I
think
guess
about
Mormonism's a little more normalized from our upbringings, but
yeah, exactly. It's surrounding us all the time.
Mhm.
right. Well, let's. And I'm so sorry. I'm kind of Joe Bidening it over here. The inspirations. Did you guys notice anything in the film that reminded you of something else, or you think came from, or came from, or just reminded you of something else?
I mean, like the really blatant one, obviously, is Moby Dick, right? But like, that's not
Yeah.
like they just like worked that right in. It's kind of hitting the low hanging fruit. But outside of that, I don't know that I'm well read enough to have picked up on anything.
I didn't.
Nothing's
Go on.
coming to mind right now.
I think I didn't either. Aside from obviously I was talking BoJack and Joker, but that's not inspirations. That's just.
Similar.
I think that this
That's some
movie was
shit.
just this movie were original. I don't think there's really that I can pick up on either that that I could really define as, hey, that reminds me of that, or they took that from that, or that's a classic this or that. Especially we talk archetypes, tropes, or etc. So I think that speaks to it in itself. That's kind of interesting.
Let's talk about the Moby Dick deal here, because there's
I think there's
ever
read.
Let's address the whale in the room.
Yeah, address the whale in the room. How do you guys feel about the interpretation? Because I feel like there's a lot of ways you can interpret this. I have some of my own. What do you guys think you got?
I guess I'm confused by what you're asking.
How do you relate Moby Dick to this story?
The failing in the battle that you're fighting. And again, I mean, like I don't even have to come up with this on my own. That essay that his daughter wrote, that he keeps on reading and keeps on reading, like the line, like the power line in that thing, is the thing that like I watched in Brendan Fraser's character, that I watched in the people that I know in my real life that have experienced this degree of helplessness. But I felt saddest when I read the boring chapters, because the author was in his own small way trying to save us from his own sad story, right? Like that thing was just like written into every interaction, is this guy trying to hide himself away from the world because he does not want to burden the people around him with the decisions that he's made that are destroying him. Like he gets it. He knows that he's killing himself. He knows that killing himself is terrible on the people that are around him. He knows that they're going to miss him when he's gone, but like he's trying to spare them that by running from everything, by not engaging with the outside world. And it's heartbreaking, dude. Like that's sad stuff. But yeah, that's what I saw. That's the comparison I saw. And I mean, like, obviously I'd better, right? I picked that up from the movie, right?
That was very good.
I couldn't have said that better myself.
Yeah, no.
Um, favorite part.
Oh, okay.
Anything stick out to you guys?
Well, I do want to say, to piggyback off of Sean in a different way and in a different of my interpretation, and I think that you're absolutely right in that interpretation. I agree. I do think that there are also, because like Moby Dick is kind of this objective that you end up kind of destroying yourself to get to, and I can kind of see that aspect in certain people. I mean, obviously, one of the things is that Charlie's Moby Dick is his daughter. He's destroying himself, and now at the very end, he's just trying to use that last little bit of life to try and make a difference in hers. Should have been doing that probably sooner. Obviously, that's the point of the movie.
It sounds like he was trying.
He was,
Like
He was paying child support.
not doing
trying to
enough.
get information. Like
Yeah.
he was trying to get to see his daughter, and his
Mhm.
her mom was like constantly standing in the way
Well,
of that. I don't
he's
want you
And
around
kind of
him.
shown
so much that he was grasping onto his daughter through that one essay this whole
Right.
time, and it's
So-
been what's the only thing that's like cured that kept him alive, literally, was
So-
reading with a little piece he had left of his daughter.
So
Sorry, go on.
I want to continue off of that,
character is
but I-
abandoning that.
but I also want to bring up that there's these other two characters that kind of have Moby Dick in their story too. Something that's so insurmountable. The nurse, I feel like hers is trying to reach him and try to reach her brother. Like she says at the end, you feel like you can't save people, you know, sometimes, and maybe in this interpretation, she may not have been able to save him, and I think that's what she was trying to do, is trying
They
to
have
reach
to want to be
him.
saved.
Yeah,
They have to want to save
saved.
themselves.
But that was kind of her. Moby Dick was, of course, him, and of course, he's also the Moby Dick in the religious kids story, because
Yeah,
of
that's a good point.
how many things that he's kind of felt like he's screwed up in life. His little missing leg, his little Ahab kind of moment is like that. He screwed so much up in his life back home that he feels like if he can reach this person that God has put before him, then his life will have mattered, and that he can redeem himself in the eyes of his family. And I think the different outcomes are kind of nice studies on that relation to that story, is that he realizes, and I guess he doesn't really realize it until the very end, but he was so close to realizing it before he made an ass of himself, was that he didn't need to save Charlie to be redeemed by his family. And you know, and that
Nor was it his responsibility, you know?
nor is it his responsibility, but he felt obligated by God and whatnot. But
Yeah, maybe a little bit by that girl.
yeah, he also, or the nurse, I think, kind of had to come to the realization that she wasn't going to be getting her brother back, even if she saved him. And I don't know if she ever made that connection, really, but she was willing to accept that that little bit of him was dying anyway in Charlie, and Charlie's going to be gone. And she spent all this time, she's a nurse, she works pretty long hours, but she spends all this time, and even walking through the snow, you know, there are a lot of the struggles she had to go through just to try and serve and help Charlie, which in a way was kind of enabling him, but she was doing what she could.
Yeah.
I do want to continue off of what you guys were saying earlier, and is that I feel that Charlie he made efforts, sure, to try and contact and be in his daughter's life, but as we can kind of see by his characterization, he's not much of a fighter. He's very much, you tell him no one time and he'll be, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have asked, kind of person.
Yeah.
I see where that comes from.
Yeah.
I don't think I didn't pick up on it that way in the as I was watching it, but I see why you might say that.
Mm-hmm. So I think
Yeah, I'm in
that
agreement.
this now realization when he sees the actual prognosis of his lifespan after congestive heart failure, there was this, I think he had this like little notion in his brain that he could still turn this around, but seeing that on the computer when he looked up his blood pressure and congestive heart failure and being like, oh yeah, I'm fucked now, is when he really saddled up and really tried to make the most amount of his time. Because this whole movie is kind of framed in a countdown. Every day is labeled because it's a countdown to the end of his life.
I never picked up
Yeah.
on that, on the labeling,
Mm-hmm.
but
Because the whole idea of like you're not going to survive the weekend, and it's just been kind of this countdown every day, and that's him doing
Well, and
his last voyage.
I did always really, really love when you've got this piece of media that feels like so much happens and so much time has passed and it's realistically just not the way it's going. So I mean, like the best example that comes front to mind is like the entire, or I shouldn't say the entire, but almost the entire first season of Attack on Titan takes place over the course of like an afternoon. You know what I mean? And so much happens. Like you can't watch that show in as little time as passes during all of those interactions. And so yeah, like all of this stuff goes on, and you're thinking about all these interactions between these characters, and then all of a sudden Thursday. Excuse me? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's been a day. I thought it
one
was
hell of a
powerful,
day.
but yeah, like really getting, hell of a day, but like really getting into it being, like the tying it back to the diagnosis is good. I missed that.
Oh, well, I just really, yeah. I think that the thing to really appreciate about this movie is how they did so much with so little. One setting, a week maybe, I think was the amount of time that he had left. And all of this happens within the smallest amount of time, and they get the most detailed with just like maybe 5 characters. They've done so much with so little that so many other stories kind of fail at by going too broad and too big, but not focusing on those intimate connections that is so present in this drama.
You guys are finished string me up for this, but I think Star Wars is the most guilty of that, of the opposite of that, of just like lots of stuff happens, but I'm just like not attached to any of it because they're just like, and then character development happened. Get used to it. What? How did we get from point A to point B? And
I would agree
but
with
yeah, I
you.
agree.
Outside of Clone Wars, Star Wars is very surface level.
I would,
and it can seem like big jumps. Not unlike Daenerys at the end of season 8 of Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Very good point. Yeah, that's a good
Bad pacing of this transition. Because we can see a rise and a fall in a character,
Yeah.
But for it to be like a just overnight it's something that grows. It's not something that just appears, and certainly not in a long burst, or anything beyond a burst. I mean to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, all of that said, in reference to what Matt was talking about, saying that like they did so much with so little, I mean, like that, I agree entirely, and I think I would even go so far as to say I think they probably did a lot with less, even than what you're talking about. As far as I'm concerned, that movie is that apartment in Brendan Fraser. I mean, like, and I know that we're going to talk about, like the actors and stuff and who we thought did a good job and all that, but like, yeah, I generally, like everybody played their part and that was fine, but like nobody mattered to me except for Brendan Fraser. Like his acting, his character, the way that he pushed all of those pieces along. Remove a stunning, flawless performance out of Charlie's character. Say that character was just like, he did a pretty good job, this movie wouldn't have done anything for me.
Yeah.
Like the rest of these people, they, like I think it's easy to look at them and be like, oh, they had this arc, they had these moments and everything. But if you were to just like isolate scenes, just like tiny little bits and pieces, the characters are kind of all over the place. They're kind of unpredictable. They seem almost ham-fisted. Like I think about the scene between the daughter and the missionary where she's like asking him questions and sticking a pipe in his mouth and everything, and like, oh, that was this powerful back and forth and this turning point in that character, except that like I don't buy any of it. Like they didn't do enough work with those characters for me to be able to like really put myself in those shoes and understand what they're going through. So I mean, like the reason, for me at least, I don't want to speak for anybody else, but like I think that what they did there was they put Brendan Fraser on a pedestal and said, go to work, do your thing. And he did it. He made that whole movie.
He not only carried his giant fucking fat suit, he carried that movie. He was incredible.
Oh yeah.
He earned that Academy Award.
Yes, sir.
And God damn, man. Every time that I cried for the movie, from him.
Yeah. No, dude, the things that I don't know how you fake unless you get it, unless you've been there somehow. And I don't know how you possibly could have. But like the sound of the way that you breathe when you're bending over your stomach and you're in pain, and you're trying, or the way that you contort your body when you're trying to grab something that's just outside of reach, but you know that standing up is out of the question. The look in his eyes that are like bloodshot around the edges and kind of bulbous, even, like from all the strain and pressure that you have to exert to just exist. Man, the laugh
pressure
turning it, yeah, dude,
right?
the laugh turning into the cough, man, like I don't know how you fake those things so effectively, like over and over and over again. Like I'm watching this movie and I'm just like watching my dad, and I hate to just link back to that. Like I don't want that to be the only thing I talk about here, but dude, it blew my fucking mind. Like I'm just like watching this guy's health fail him. And I believed it. Like I could not have imagined a more accurate depiction of it. That was not, somehow he was there and actually living it. And fuck me, man. Like if that did not wreck my night, it's, talk about shouldering a movie, dude. Perfect.
Yeah, I nothing but agree with that. I want to bring up a couple points, and I want to know what you guys thought. All right. I think maybe this one. Do you think that, when Ellie was acting like a little shithead recording and taking pictures of that kid, do you think she did that out of the kindness of her heart to help him? Yeah, that was a sense. I
don't think so.
Yeah,
that was just showing the true optimist in him.
That he wanted to see the good.
He was convincing himself, because this goes to like my favorite part of this whole movie was obviously the part that you even see in the trailer. It's hard not to love it. It's where he's just like, where he's crying. He's just like, I need to know that I have done one thing right with my life, and this goes back to grasping onto control, and this denial. Even he could argue with his daughter and who she is and where she's even going in life, without him, without her father.
He's living his life vicariously through the people that he believes that he's impacting. You know what I mean? Like his only reason for existing is to have done something for this other person that he believes is still worth saving. Like Like he isn't worth it anymore, but his daughter still has a chance, kind of thing.
Yeah,
Oh
it's
man,
that
that actually hits pretty hard.
when you're talking.
That's just way too much. Sorry.
I
Go
was
on.
gonna say that concept that you're talking about is like the denial of death. It's the idea that you can somehow immortalize yourself in something else, a deed that you've done to give your life some sort of purpose.
We often do that through our children, and
Often it
that's
is, yeah.
way too much to put onto a child.
Mm-hmm.
Even an adult, it's not their responsibility to basically, be your redemption story. They're their own, because that means I'm, my parents' redemption, who are their parents' redemption, and in ways we kind of are, but at the same time, it's like,
That's
like I
kind
said,
of
that's not her responsibility
No.
to be the one thing he did right.
No, but it is our human nature to do that, and that whether that's right or not is irrelevant for this. I mean, well, it is relevant to this story, but it's also like this is what I think motivated him so much.
Yeah, it's the one thing he ever did was work online and save up money for his daughter. He even let his ex-lover's sister suffer through the snow and bullshit so he can save another penny for fucking for his daughter.
I mean, he offered her the money.
That's true,
Like,
but he
talks about
didn't
that.
tell
Like,
her. He didn't tell her that he had money. That's true. I didn't think about that.
The
but like again, like he didn't want anybody to ever have to suffer on his behalf. Like that was the last thing that he ever again, like him running away from everybody was supposed to be him alleviating the suffering that he caused in everybody's life around him.
Do you? Another question I want to ask is, who broke the plate that was feeding the crow outside? Because they didn't really show that, I don't think, if I'm remembering right. But
they did not show who, and I'm confident it was Ellie. And again, I'm confident it's because she's just being shitty to somebody. She is doing the thing that we were talking about in feeling like they have no control over their life. I know sociology about this. It's called a maladaptive coping mechanism. And so when you are feeling powerless and you need to do something about that. Oh, shoot. This is something that they talk about in Fall of the House of Usher. You redirect that negative emotion towards something that you believe doesn't have the ability to enact any consequence back. So you get to live out your fantasy of this shitty behavior of like aggressing on somebody and hurting somebody without ever having to really experience then the negative consequence that comes along with that, and breaking the plate to take joy away from her father and then like kind of inadvertently hurt this bird that probably doesn't care that much, but yeah, like the whole thing was just her inflicting pain as a ineffective way of expressing the pain that she was experiencing in her own life.
What's interesting is we go back to the whole control thing. This maladaptive. This isn't mal, actually, but the whole control thing is interesting. The feeding the bird alone. He couldn't take care of his daughter, but he fed the bird.
Yeah. And it made him happy.
Yeah, it did.
He feel happy.
Because he was taking care of others. Because you help yourself by helping others in such an interesting way. I feel like that's where a lot of like motive and stuff, like a lot of people, especially people struggling with depression, have a hard time helping themselves. But they will, just like Brendan's character Charlie, they would give anything to help people, as long as it didn't force them to help themselves in a weird way.
So my last question I want to ask is, do you think by the end of the film, I do think he reached Ellie, but do you think that he inspired a positive, like he changed her trajectory in life, or that she was going to be able to change in a more positive direction after this interaction by the end of the film?
I think that it is pretty clear through these tiny little snapshots of her dropping this wall of being a heinous bitch. Like think about her making the sandwich.
Yes.
Think about her like shouting at her dad to go to the hospital and like not being like after I don't fucking care about you, you could just die, and then like that's false, right? It was a pretty thinly veiled attack, but so she had never entirely given up on her dad, right? Like she was still this brilliant person that he believed that she was. I don't think that her life was the lost cause that her mom would have everybody believe that it was. So like do I think that maybe like I think it's intentionally left vague in the movie that like they don't give you the and 30 years later she started a nonprofit, right? It's supposed to be a little bit up for that. But I don't think that any of the behavior that she displayed through that movie was a sign of her being on this downward spiral, right? Like I don't think that at any point she became unredeemable. And so yeah, like I would like to hope that then like this interaction did really mean something. And how could it not? Like you watch somebody die in front of you and it's gonna leave an impression, right? And she's the kind of person that was not already or that was hardened enough that it's not like that experience was going to be the thing that threw her off the edge. You know what I mean? Like I think instead you find a way to find meaning in all of that.
Absolutely. I actually really like that we don't get the whole 30 years later thing or whatever, because I kind of like the idea that her destiny is not her destiny is not set in stone. She decides her own how she ends. You know what I mean? And that she could become her father, or she could become her mother, or she could become someone totally different. But that's up to her, and how much she learns self-care and self-respect. And she might learn that through bad example via her mother and father of what not to do,
I think because Sean, you propose such a brilliant, optimistic, and hopefully the outcome that comes of this, I'm gonna pose the cynical kind of outcome that I think may also have happened.
Good thing I chose the middle ground.
Yeah. Just like in Moby Dick, it's kind of left ambiguous on whether or not Ahab died killing the white whale that he so dedicated his life to. This is left ambiguous, but I think in this sense, to me, taking the cynical approach is that he did what he could with that little bit of time that he, kind of pulled his head out of his multiple asses or how giant ass,
right? Multiple, yeah, right. All those butt cheeks.
Yeah, and really gave the most he could to her, the best way he could in that little bit of time. Is that
in the way he knew how?
This is only
the way he could. Yeah.
This is only one painful memory for her in a long way, and that it does kind of nudge the needle of her life in the right direction, her trajectory in the right direction. But the fact remains is that he has kind of done so much damage through his inaction before, and through her mother's kind of giving up on her, that she may still kind of go down a path of negative life experience, that she still failed her class. She hasn't really, hopefully she takes from it that she does need to be more authentic and take school more seriously, but I don't think in the cynical view she will. And that 8 years is a long time for a child's development, and he kind of fails. And this is kind of like a tale telling you these are the consequences of not overcoming your grief, not trying harder to be in these people's lives and maintain these connections.
He felt so into the past,
Mm-hmm.
and in so much, I don't know if it was denial or maybe it's similarly stuck in the present as well, that he never really thought about the future or cared enough
Well, it's
about his future, his
Mhm.
daughter, even his daughter's future with the money. But his daughter would, if she had half the heart that I know he had inside him,
Mm-hmm.
he'd give all that money away to have her dad back.
Well, he had to have a big
You
heart
know,
to have that high of blood pressure.
right, a large heart. But it's I don't know. He's just
I think
yeah.
he wallowed so much of his own selfish emotion that he failed to see in his own sense of martyrdom that he wanted to take on by isolating himself from his family and taking him out of the equation. He ends up hurting these other people so much more because he's thinking about his own grief, how he could be impacting them by being in grief and stuff like that.
He never got to see his daughter. What's next.
Mhm.
Never got to
Well, I
see his
guess
grandkids. Nothing.
all of that said, I'm willing to be hung up on this. So let's talk about this cynical
Mhm.
view a little bit. So
Mhm.
like one, by no means is this girl the first person to have an absent dad and an alcoholic mother,
Yes.
right? And so I mean, like is that a disadvantage? Absolutely.
Mhm.
But like what then do you look for? So the one thing that I look at is that they let you see the person behind the facade, and the person is still good.
Mhm.
The person that she is hiding still cares, still just wanted her dad in her life, still just wants people to take her seriously and love her, right? Like this person has not actually abandoned those things. It's an act. It's a front that she's put
It's
up
front
to
stage.
protect herself. Yeah, precisely. And so then like I believe I'm willing to believe that people can still, as long as that person still exists, that there's still hope. Beyond
As
that,
long as they don't truly lose hope. I know she's not projecting that she does, but on the inside, like you said, she still has that in her. She still wants her dad. She still,
yeah.
And so as long as
then,
he wants that, it's when you give up hope, like her father, that we get the opposite,
that's exactly where I want to go with this. Is in the second part is that if like she watched it, she got to see what happens when the person experiences grief, experiences loss, and then succumbs to it. And she has built all of this facade out of resentment for what that did to her father. She has allowed herself to despise that. And so she would be betraying her own resentment in order to allow the grief that she's experiencing through the loss of her father to be then the thing that controls her life. Like if she also succumbed to that, then what has she learned? How is she any better than this person that she outwardly disgusts? You know what I mean? Like I've seen a lot of people accomplish incredible acts of denying generational trauma out of spite. Out of everybody expects me to be like the person that I hate, and so I will not, only because they want me to. And so I mean, like obviously,
like a reverse psychology almost. I don't know, or
yeah,
denial.
for sure. I think it's there. I think she's going to be all right.
I hope so.
I think there's a lot of hope for her, more than her father.
I think going off of like a storytelling and narrative kind of structure, that is the outcome that I see happening in this story. But I think a message should be taken is that you shouldn't wait to the buzzer to try and be in someone's life. Is that something that BoJack Horseman really kind of taught me a lot was that you can't just go at the person's deathbed and be like, I'm sorry, I want to make things right now after so much time has passed, and you need to be present. I think that's a lesson that can be taken from this movie.
You're talking about him with Herb?
Yeah, Herb, Pizzazz, yeah.
Or his daughter.
Well, he does. BoJack has,
or his mother.
Are you talking about BoJack?
Yeah, sorry, his
half sister.
Well, his girlfriend, the deer.
Yeah,
that he could try to go back and also, be like, oh, I'm better now. Yeah, there were a lot of times.
He did that show to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's a reoccurring theme.
Maybe,
that I love
even Diane.
I
Good
think
point. Yeah, Diane's a good one.
But I think that should be a lesson that we
even
should
Princess
also...
Carolyn, everybody really. Everybody.
Mm-hmm. You can't just
Todd,
have
everybody.
You can't have the sitcom ending because you've been shitty for this amount of years, and then this last weekend I spent before he died, then everything's okay now. I think that's a lesson that we should take from
11th hour apology doesn't actually work. People don't give that to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely loses. It's like the boy who cried wolf,
Mm-hmm. And
it's, we took you seriously the first couple times, but now I just don't fucking believe you,
Yeah.
And
you haven't put in the work to really show. And I think that's a lesson that we should also take from a movie like this, is that you shouldn't wait to the last minute to be present and loving and a positive influence in other person's life. But I think that she still has hope. She's still a young person with a future ahead of her. She can still turn this around, and that is kind of her responsibility now as she enters adulthood. She's gonna have to learn that, and hopefully this interaction was enough. And I like to think it is. I'm tend to be more optimistic, and I love a good story that kind of has those kind of arcs.
Yeah.
But god dang.
Absolutely. I know it. Critiques, guys? Anything you didn't like? Anything that kind of bugged you,
I didn't like how
the
gross.
last 30 seconds of that movie was dog shit.
I have a hard time with how they ended that, It's kind of like a Stephen King, They didn't know how to end it or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Like you're gonna, so I mean, like, okay, fine, big moment, dude gets on his feet. I'm optimistic, right? Like something's gonna happen here, and I didn't know how they were gonna end either. I knew they couldn't just and then he lost a bunch of weight and had a happy family, right? Like they're not gonna fairy tale this thing, but up on your toes, flash a light, oh, and he went to heaven. Yeah, no, thank you, not what I needed.
The last
zero closure.
Well, it was kind of interesting that I'm usually, I'm not very religious, but I did find it interesting because his boyfriend, was religious. I think he was too. I mean, he read the Bible. He highlighted the Bible.
Yeah.
Well, I think he was actually being humble when he said he read it a couple times. What are you saying?
It was his boyfriend's Bible that was highlighted.
Was it? Well, he read it a couple times himself, and I think
his boyfriend,
Alan
Grant.
That's why I think that's why he denied religion to accept all that drama they had with them being gay and getting denied by the church, which it's really interesting. I usually try not to make things too personal, but since Sean's been so open, my grandmother, she got divorced in I can't remember if it's the 60s or the 70s, but with 5 kids, and single mom, 5 kids back then was crazy, hard, and she needed the church more than ever at the time, and they completely denied her. Excluded her because she had gotten divorced, and this is, in their view, against God.
Awful.
She broke her promise to God. And it's just kind of sad because it goes kind of what you're talking earlier. The church should have been,
That community should have
doing
been
more.
there
Yeah.
for him. You need that.
What is a
community.
church for if to not find support in the big questions that you're failing to answer on yourself? Like we've talked a couple of times about the legacy that you have through having children, that people have kids because they want to deny this idea of their mortality, that they will die and mean nothing and be forgotten, right? Like that's a difficult thing to stomach. And I think religion is basically the same function, right? It's to answer all of those questions that you don't have answers for. Why am I doing this? Why am I being a good person? Why am I, like learning all of these things? Why am I, and so, yeah, like if your church turns on you, like you finally have these questions that you can't answer on your own, like sitting and thinking about it fondly is not doing it. Like you can't have those people be like, oh, well, line in the sand, you fucked up, figure it out yourself. It's pretty hypocritical.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. But what is religion if not hypocrisy?
Phenomenal point.
Let's see here. I'm trying to think. Anything besides that ending, because that ending was it was so abrupt. It was just so abrupt in like left field. It felt a little out of nowhere.
I guess,
but it was kind of him coming back to his boyfriend. The thing he'd been longing for more than anything, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was necessarily heaven. It was just, to me, it was just his brain fucking synapsing out and just like
coping with his death. It was him coping with his death.
It's the
what else was the brain do?
The last bit of DMT rush.
In that case, most people die high.
I'm sure that there's smarter people than me that would talk about like the lifting of the burden, like his weightlessness is metaphorical for something, and I don't know.
Yeah,
still not into
really
it.
abstract stuff there.
I think we also already basically touched on the other two scenes that are like kind of stand out for me as like why did we do it that way? That doesn't make any sense to me. And it was the scene with the delivery driver standing outside, and they had this moment, like I was excited for that moment, and then he's just like, oh, and runs away, so I don't entirely get that. And you guys made some pretty good points about it. I see where you're coming from. And then also, the scene with the daughter, negatively influencing the missionary. I just
I didn't like that.
I thought it was when she recorded him when she recorded him without his consent and stuff, that was pretty fucked. When he was actually pouring, the one time he opens up, this bitch fucking blasted to his church, Right?
Yeah.
And what we usually assume is, to hurt him. To ensure that he never gets redemption. Because she feels like he doesn't get redemption. She doesn't get redemption with her dad. It
kind of showed,
I don't know,
a mean-spiritedness to her that it was kind of like, I really didn't like that. Like I was still willing to like hold out hope, but that was kind of something that was kind of inexcusable to me. I was like, that was just nasty. That was just mean. He was
vulnerable
mean.
And she took advantage of it.
Yeah.
In the most negative of ways.
Mm-hmm.
Which I guess I just feel like is from the movie standpoint, if the point was to like really do a good job of capturing that this person really is like cruel and hateful and not just like kind of acting out, if that's what they were trying to nail home, I feel like they needed to do more work on it, right? In the same way that like I feel like if the point of the missionary's character was supposed to be like about him, kind of re-succumbing to the addiction and everything, like there needed to be more development. And so like there are these snapshots with these supporting characters that I felt like like maybe were supposed to be giving us some sort of insight, but that just didn't feel natural. Like it didn't have a smooth arc that led me into those decisions. And so I didn't really clearly understand why we were getting those scenes. Like I guess to really wrap it in, I think if those scenes hadn't happened, I don't think it would have changed the movie for me.
Yeah.
Fair. I think the like the Mormon boy specifically, I think, or the Christian, whatever, this religious boy, I think he was a huge reflection of. This guy does, I think, have some religious side. His boyfriend certainly did, and it's really hard when them being gay in itself is a sin. To be denied an afterlife by just living yours your life. I feel like it just was kind of reflect more of a different side of him. There was a religious side to him, even though he denied a lot of it deep down, especially when one's dying. That's what religion's about. We talked about immortalizing through your children. People really try to immortalize through religion. They try to. It's the the get out of death free card. I'm not dying. I'm living more than ever. I'm living forever. In fact.
Yeah. Religion.
It's
children,
a coping mechanism with one's mortality. And I think he had that in him, and understandably so. He was dying, and he had roots in the past about it. I think that's what that boy represented. I again like that his daughter, the whole thing, even the thing about whether or not she did that thing out of spite or out of some kind of actual hidden compassion. I like that it's open to interpretation, because it goes again to Ellie's life not being set in stone, and that she can be anything, she good or bad. I think that's also kind of sprinkled in there like that. I do kind of like that, but there were some things that were like, I don't know. I definitely felt like the religious boy did feel a little shoehorned, but
yeah. I felt like
And I
maybe
guess
given more time, but I guess there had to be a reason. They had to show a reason why he was reaccepted by his church.
Well, and he could argue from him that this was like a thing of God, that this was God bringing, him help by him at least trying to help Charlie, that he was redeemed and allowed back into his family, back into his church, back into the community.
Okay, we are at an hour and a half, by the way.
Yeah, if we want to do one more recording, we are going to have to wrap this up. So why don't we do some closing thoughts then?
Yeah. So closing thoughts
why it's awesome, why it's terrible. We kind of already did that. But...
And why do we need a sequel? The Whale 2: The Revenge.
What he's haunting? He's like haunting that apartment.
It's a giant fucking ghost, dude. Order another 2 pizzas.
Right. The person who fucking goes in, his name's Dick.
It's Dick.
Yeah. Fucking.
He's got one leg.
I don't know.
Yeah, no.
Right.
I think this was a fantastic movie. It definitely inspired a lot of conversation, especially just between us. And I still think there's still so much. Oh my god, there's so much more that we cannot fit into this one episode.
Yeah, I know it. No, I think in general, like kind of in context of what I was talking about with the like Hauser's talking about, I liked that it was open to interpretation. I don't like that. For whatever reason, I've never really gotten into, like the really deep analysis. I really do kind of want people to spoon feed my movies to me. And because like I want to experience what the artist wanted me to experience. I don't, I can overthink my own life all I damn well please. You want something to be open to interpretation, give me reality, right? But like you want to give me this neatly packaged thing, tell me how I should be feeling. Give me an experience that is whole and complete that I can empathize with, and let me and let me grow my life by experiencing that, right? And so like I think then why that's relevant, it talks about why I maybe didn't like some of the scenes that you guys did like, but also why this hit me so hard is that in so many different points of this movie, as you're watching Charlie make decisions and experience things, like the passion that he had to like do right by his daughter, and the shame that he experienced, and the like wanting to do better and not being able to, and like those didn't just make me feel how he felt, but they made me reconsider the decisions that I make. Like if something can leave you wondering, how do I see these negative behaviors in my own life? What is it that I should be doing to correct those things, to be better for my peers, and not see this obviously larger than life example, but like I've experienced gluttony, right? Like I've eaten out of comfort instead of out of hunger. Like I can relate to that, and what does that say about me? And I think that that's what this did so well, is it just like it left you really wondering, what's important in your life. There wasn't a lot left to interpretation, I think.
Yeah, Charlie was so stuck in the past.
Yeah.
Cost him his he had a horrible present and no future.
So
Yeah.
I think we should try to take away, by the end of the movie, I don't think it's too much up for interpretation on this sense of like where it ends. And I think the message is overall pretty clear for me that, don't wallow in grief. Maybe go for a walk or a run every now and again. Don't, be present in people's lives. Because if you don't, you'll just become 1 billion pounds and you'll shit yourself and die on a couch.
Right. Yeah, I'd like to say. I know, you just go there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that
on his floor. To be fair, he got up.
He made it.
Right?
He made it.
That's also what makes it so sad, is he could have gotten up. That he had the strength in him somewhere, and if he just kept doing it, instead of just at the end.
Yeah.
But I would say to or anyone listening to this, as far as going forward after this movie, is to take care of yourself so you can be there to take care of others.
Absolutely.
Respect yourself so you can respect others, and I think so importantly, love yourself so you can love others. I think so many people. When we talk about self-love being, a lot of people think loving yourself is narcissistic, but I'm talking about like self-care. I'm talking about loving yourself and even loving those around you enough to take care of yourself, but to really, honestly, even appreciate yourself, because that's a huge part of fighting depression and stuff. Is instead of looking at the bad things, you look at the bad things, you look at 1 million bad things about you, and you won't look at one good thing about you. And you should. Practices like saying one good thing about you in the mirror and stuff. I think those kinds of positive reinforcements can help a lot of people out there. And
Yeah.
if anyone's struggling with depression, just know that you're worth it, and you need to just just love yourself.
Yeah. Life is long, man. It's the longest thing you'll ever do. If it feels hopeless, try again. It's a Shane Koizan quote, and has inspired me a lot of times. But if today is truly as bad as it will ever be, then understand that by tomorrow, today will be over.
Yeah, I like that.
Beautiful.
We should end it right there. I think that was great.
Got any plugs you want to do, John?
Yeah, tell us about this band.
This band? Oh, so
you can plug your band. Yeah, what's up?
It's not my band. Stranded by Choice. They're like a southern fried hard rock thing, out of Billings, Montana, and they're crushing it. We're going on tour here in a couple of weeks. Gonna be heading heading south, hitting New Orleans. I'm going to be putting together a live album out of that work. So check the Spotify's and the YouTubes and whatever else. We should have the real deal coming to people before too much longer. Yeah, that'll be exciting.
Yeah. What was the name of the
That was
band
awesome.
one more time?
Stranded by Choice.
All right.
Awesome.
I keep telling them that we should name the van Stranded by Accident, but they say that's bad juju. So
Right. It's
Stranded
self-fulfilling
by choice.
prophecy if you're not careful.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. We appreciate you. Go for a run. Don't eat 2 meatball subs in one sitting. It's bad for you. And go tell someone. Go reconnect and love the people that are present in your life. Good night.
Good night.
Sean, say the thing.
oh, good night. Sorry. Yeah.
That's all good.
All right.